Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
And I think a lot of people do watch you and are impressed, and they think you've been a great president. You've brought the economy back. You've restored relations with the world.
Now that we're doing a great job in world leadership, probably at the level of FDR or Eisenhower, we're holding the world together. We're building NATO as it was built to be.
You see why we're screwed?
Wow.
That CNN, I hope you're watching the show. It's real easy to find us if you want to watch our show.
Yeah, we're on YouTube at Wake Up Mid-Missouri, or you can watch us on the Wake Up Facebook page.
And if you're watching on the video, you would see Stephanie's shock and surprise at hearing that's why we are screwed. CNN, MSNBC, flat out lying to the American people. We're doing so well, Joe. So many people think you've done a great job as president. And then you've got MSNBC. This is an incredible president. I mean, I'm putting him up there with FDR, but here are some facts.
What must be what? True international effort to pressure.
Donald Trump does pose an excellent threat to this.
It's a right for people to have bad health care.
You have a right to have bad health care. And then yesterday, of course, John, you know, Stephanie and I, we huddle up here under blankets every time Joe goes overseas. Did you see what Joe did yesterday?
He had high tea.
He had high tea, and then, oh my God. This is why sometimes I really wish we were on TV instead of just the YouTube video feed. And there is video of Joe Biden and the Prince and Joe, and they're walking, they're going through the line. And then all of a sudden, Joe stops and talks to one of those like Buckingham Palace guards that has that 10-foot high hat that's like made out of
bear skin.
Bear skin. You're not really supposed to talk to those dudes. And Joe Biden is like a little curious 4-year-old over talking to one of these guards. I would assume he's probably saying, "Is that your real hair?" That's what I figured Joe was saying. And then Prince Charles goes, he's like, Joe, Prince Charles is having to corral Joe like, dude, you're not supposed to talk to those dudes. Dude, come on, we're going up here. And Joe, I'm not kidding, he like Mr. Magoo.
Fact check, King Charles.
King Charles, thank you.
King, Prince, whatever.
Whatever.
Chuck.
Well, and the other facts are, and I can't compute the latest polling that, you know, some people think that the approval rating isn't as bad as it should be for Joe Biden, but like the wrong track, right track numbers for the country, it's like 72% of people think we're on the wrong track, yet only like 55% of people disapprove of his. I'm like, wow. Who do you think is putting us on the wrong track? I don't get it. So everyone agrees our country is in the toilet, but not everybody is blaming Biden for that?
Yeah, it is kind of, and that's a great, I appreciate you pointing that out, because some of those numbers, the overwhelming majority of Americans say we're on the wrong track. And to me, that speaks to the overall collective mental attitude of our country. It's not good. It's not been good since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. But I guess this, again, and it's because of people like CNN and MSNBC, they think Joe's all right.
And I think a lot of people do watch you and are impressed, and they think you've been a great president.
And people...
Impressed.
Yeah.
Impressed.
People think, who thinks this guy has been a great president? And seriously, if you're one of those people we've said here, please call. We won't argue. We won't debate you. We won't talk about gas prices. We won't talk about the economy. We won't talk about the cost of eggs. We won't talk about the fact that Joe wants to control what media does. They want to control what goes out on social media. That's a socialist state-run news agency. That's what they want to do. Joe killed 12 of our Americans a couple of years ago, including a kid here in Missouri. Who? Please, if you know we've even had people start texting us now. I'm like, if you know somebody that thinks Joe Biden is doing a good job, text us. We won't give your name. Tell us those conversations. Have those people call us. And again, I would promise no yelling, no debating. I would just sit here and drink a cup of tea. Like, I'd be fascinated.
I'm not sure you can make that promise.
Which one?
He's any of them. He only promised that he was not going to yell. He did not promise that he was not going to laugh.
You think we could do it, Marsh?
No.
I would sit here more.
We'd spill our tea.
out of curiosity. And I'd just be like, seriously, what is it that you like about this guy? Do you like the idea that they want to turn like social media outlets and news outlets into Russia and China, where, Joe, you get to control what the news outlets say? Do you like that? Do you like paying more for gasoline? Is that what you like? Do you like paying more for eggs? Do you like the fact that he promotes and fully supports racist policy when it comes to paying for college? Do you like that he's racist? Do you like that he's got a granddaughter? My gosh, I think about my little grandbaby, Harper. And the idea that the president of the United States, and that's a human, this is not even political. It speaks to him, his human element, and it's lacking. But we know this about progressives. We shared that study about a month ago. Progressives as a whole, according to psychologists, they are narcissistic, and we know that because they won't listen to opposing viewpoints. They want it their way. Think about any narcissist you've had in your life. It all applies. Think about that. I mean, seriously, stop down for a minute and think about, okay, what is a narcissist? And then think about these progressives and what they want to do. They lie like we're 4 years old and we buy every lie that they're saying. They're incredibly arrogant. Alejandro Mayorkas, Department of Homeland Security, him and his damn secure border with the fentanyl, coming up here and killing kids in mid-Missouri. He's the most arrogant of them all.
Although he did correct that reporter about the whipping down on and she still disputed it in public, but he did correct her.
Crazy. Would love 874-9390 if you or somebody you know. Honestly, I just want to hear it. Stephanie's not going to yell at you.
Me yell?
Marsh? I think those people are out there. I do. Now, the question is, will they call in? But one only needs to look at the 2020. Go to Breonna Lennon's website. If people don't think that Brandon's correct, go to Breonna's and to take a look at the election returns from 2020. And you could make the argument maybe 2022 as well. But, Scott Fitzpatrick did not carry Boone County in the election. And I believe President Biden won this county, as I recall, by about 7,000 votes. Which makes Caleb Brown's victory even all the more remarkable in 2020. But there are quite a few Biden supporters in Columbia, no question.
State Senator Lincoln Hough joins us 710, reps Springfield area. He knows some stuff about the gal who says she wants to run for governor, and Crystal Quaid, and the possibility of an override of a gubernatorial veto. He's here at 710. Arps here at 735. But here's why the voters in Boone County, this is why Biden wins Boone County, because you got a bunch of idiotic Democrats, progressives, that believe crap like this.
We're doing a great job in world leadership. Probably at the level.
They watch the TV and they take, it's like they're 4 years old and their mom and dad is spoon feeding them some medicine because they got a little cough. And these idiots in Boone County that vote for Joe and vote for these progressives, they just, CNN says he's a great president. Chris Matthews, MSNBC, says he's FDR-like. And they're like, and these idiots that probably have college degrees, by the way, but don't have the ability to think. They're like, yes, Joe's so good. We love this. Which is why I'm glad for, I didn't mean to do that. Makes me happy.
You're fired up. You're fired up. You bring up, Brandon, I think you bring up a very good point that's worth expanding on just for a second, and that is particularly the 93.9, the Eagle and KWS listening audience. No question, KWS, a deeply conservative, Jefferson City, Cole County. You get into Osage and Montauk County, staunch conservative. By the way, those areas used to be Democrat years ago. But you look at the Eagle, you look at Columbia as a whole, and Randy Minshew ran against Barbara Buffalo. Without the fourth ward, I'm not sure Barbara Buffalo wins the mayoral race. It was that ward that was the difference. Big turnout. A lot of professors, by the way, at Mizzou live in that ward. Just go up and down Broadway, look at the signs. They say climate change. I vote for climate.
West Boulevard.
There you go. I mean, that's a big deal. But Columbia is a big blue spot, there's no question. But you get outside of Columbia, and this is going to be the problem for Quaid or whoever is the nominee, or Carla May or whoever is going to be the nominee for the Democrats in the Senate. You get outside of Columbia, Boone County, probably a little more purple, but all the rural counties in our listening area, all of them, ruby red.
You
All
look
of
at
them.
a red-blue map after any election, especially presidential election, and you look at the state of Missouri, it's all red, and there's 3 blue dots, and you know where those 3 blue dots are.
St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, and a tiny one in Springfield. But yes,
That's our man, Brian Hausworth. How you doing this morning, bud?
hanging in there. I just heard back from Gail Blumenkamp of the Boone County Fire District, the Task Force 1. They've got 2 members that are flying. They're not dry. They're flying to Vermont. To the best of my knowledge, it's the first time they've ever been there, but that flooding is really, really horrible. I'll have more on that at the bottom of the hour.
And meanwhile, we're dealing with some pretty significant drought in the state of Missouri. As a matter of fact, more and more folks in the ag industry are like, this is going to be bad. And this has the potential to impact us because of the grain and the beef that comes out of the state of Missouri. So all that stuff on Biden makes me happy. There is an introduction of the American Confidence in Elections Act. Stephanie's all over this, one of the things we are covering this morning. Mr. Marsh, how are you today, man?
Doing good. And yourself?
Excellent. Thanks for asking. Watching Joe yesterday, they're talking about NATO and Sweden, and Joe saying, well, you know what, and we're dumping a whole bunch of money on Ukraine. It's startling. And I get conflicted about this. People, well, what do you think about Ukraine? I'm like, well, people say, well, we want lower gas prices. So do you want to dump millions and millions and millions of dollars on another country so that you can get your lower gas? I don't know. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great.
All right. There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. 874-9390. 874-9390. When Arps is here, 6:35, I'm interested. So our auditor, Scott Fitzpatrick, just recently here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri's probe of former circuit attorney Kimberly Gardner is advancing. I want to get Christopher Arps' thoughts on that coming up. James off the text. We found somebody, Hannah. Because we're just seriously, I mean, for real, would talk to somebody like if you voted for Biden and you think that he's doing a good job, or please tell him to call. We just want to talk out of curiosity.
You should call your old friend Claire McCaskill.
James says, Joe has been great at showing us elections have consequences.
I like that spin, James.
He's right, because look at all these people that voted for Joe. And all of these people that can't hardly pay for gasoline, milk, eggs, these people that think that it's okay for Joe to want to control what you say on social media. That's right. Elections have consequences. Coming up, we're going to be doing the daily DC Rundown.
We are going to be diving into this American Confidence in Elections Act, the ACE Act that was set forth yesterday.
shows it does not keep people from voting. And in fact, I think there's some evidence that it actually enhances confidence and may help increase turnout. In Georgia, when the voter ID law was in place for the first time in 2008, presidential election, they had a huge increase.
That's a full committee here. That's testimony from a full committee hearing happening yesterday in Washington, D.C. regarding the American Confidence in Elections Act. And that's getting us into today's Daily D.C. Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
But did you catch where the hearing took place? You know, they've been taking these hearings on the road, and Republicans chose to unveil this in
Atlanta.
Atlanta on the eve of Major League Baseball's All-Star Game. If you recall, they moved that game because of state election laws. Was it last year? Gosh, it feels longer than that.
Right, they were racist laws and all this.
And so now Republicans have unveiled the ACE Act. Democrats in the past have unveiled a number of various election proposals, all basically nationalizing our elections. And we've had our own Secretary of State on this show saying this federal legislation is ridiculous. This is something the states should be doing. And now Republicans are attempting some legislation to try to shore that up. This ACE Act first would basically establish that states are the primary, have the primary role in establishing and administering elections. And beyond doing that, so it provides states with various tools to help states then bolster their own election integrity rules. It would prevent non-citizens from participating in our election. Now, this is a big thing that our friend Chris Arps has been harping on. And so I'm excited to get his take on this legislation and see where he thinks it's going. Obviously, with the makeup of Congress right now, these two competing proposals are likely stalled out, but it also has some voter identification provisions. It has some provisions dealing with military voting, some protections of political speech as it comes to the First Amendment. And I think it's also going to, one thing that appears to be kind of stuck in there is I think it would terminate the Disinformation Board officially, which hasn't it been kind of terminated already?
Yeah.
But I officially, I think it seeks to end that.
And I think, John, people say whatever you want about elections and how much fraud people think doesn't happen or does happen. But John, don't we just want to, listen, when I go to the poll, I want to know that you counted my vote right. I want to know that you counted everybody. We just want to feel good about it, right?
Well, it was one of the representatives. What was his line? Something about make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. It's
Amen.
like, yeah, we're from Missouri. Show me.
Amen.
Show me. And the new polling, I mean, this is coming on the eve of this new polling from the Associated Press, and it says only 22% of Republicans have high confidence that votes in the upcoming presidential election will count, compared to 71% of Democrats. And this is a problem because when people feel like their vote won't count, a lot of times they won't show up. Yep. And we need people to show up to vote. And so overall, only 44% of Americans have a great deal or quite a bit of confidence that their votes in the next presidential will count. And so you see Republicans kind of responding to that, saying we're going to do everything we can to make sure, from our side, we're proposing measures that make our people think that their vote counts.
And I wonder, too, especially let's take, really the lone progressive county in all of our reach here in mid-Missouri, and that would be Boone County. Like, there's got to be more conservatives in Boone County. Are they just not getting out and voting? And if so, I don't understand why people would not get out and vote, especially a conservative.
And I would say in Missouri, I think we do a particularly good job, whether you're talking about our local clerks or our Secretary of State, and you can go and look at, there have been cases of election fraud here in Missouri, but a very, I think, limited instances as opposed to, things that you've seen in other states. So I think if you're voting here, you should be assured that your vote counts.
Heritage Foundation is a really good resource for state-by-state details of election fraud.
It is. Well, Biden met with King Charles yesterday, sat down for tea, talked a lot about climate. I believe he is now headed to Lithuania.
Coming up, so on this voting thing that Stephanie's all over, we're going to get Chris's, because this is something Chris Arps is really big on, too. Tashara Jones, her personal text got sunshine, and it's a great story. Arps here 5 minutes from now. Good morning. Welcome into the show. By the way, we were just covering this in the Daily DC Rundown. Stephanie is big on this, and I know you're big on American citizens for voting, but Republicans rolling out a new national voting law. What is your take on this?
Well, I think anything that ensures the integrity of our election, especially after what's happened in 2020 and what's happened in the subsequent elections, anything that can have people have confidence in our elections, I am 100% behind that, as you know.
Well, because this is what John Marsh and I were just talking about. Say whatever you want about the 2020 election, and I'm glad, by the way, to see Republicans quit talking about that. It was hurting them. Stolen elections. Move forward. But I wonder. We just want to feel confident, right? When I go to the polls, I want to know that my vote was counted. I want to know that yours was counted. I want to know that they got everybody's vote right. We just want to feel good about things. You think this will help us get there?
I do, Brandon. I want it to be like it used to be before I could vote and the years after I began voting, that before I went to bed, I would know who the next president of the United States is. Now, you're not so sure. And especially with these other jurisdictions that are putting in this ranked choice voting and all of this crap, where we're learning like a week or 2, 3 weeks later who won an election. There was a recent ranked choice voting where one person was called the winner, and then they retabulated the votes because they added them up wrong, and he ended up not being the winner. You know, we should make it simple. I've always said this. Election day should be one day, not the 2 and 3 months beforehand. If you are out of town or you're not going to be able to vote at your election place, yes, have an absentee ballot, but election day should be one day. We should not have ranked choice voting, one person, one vote, and just keep it simple. Kids principle.
We had somebody on our show several months ago who was trying, and I told him, I said, listen, I'll tell you from what I know about it, do not like ranked choice voting. It's not American Idol, man. It's too Hollywood-like for me. Just vote for who you want in there. That's it. It's that easy. This guy, and he was a Missouri-based dude, he could not, and I had to, Chris, ask him several times, and I even had the help of Brian Houseworth, like, you got to explain this to us like we're 2 years old, and we had people texting like, I don't get what the heck it is that this guy is talking about. Our guest, Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. This dude knows Missouri politics. He knows voting rights, knows voting laws. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Coming up 7:10, State Senator Lincoln Hough, Rep. Springfield. He's going to be joining us. The possibility of an override of a gubernatorial veto coming up in the special session. We're getting there. I'm getting ready to go on vacation, and I am not.
I can tell.
Can you? And I don't want that to happen. I am here. I am not checked out. I'm not hanging out with the grandkids in the mountains of Idaho. I am here to say hello to producer Hannah.
Hello.
There's John Marsh.
Yes, sir.
All right. My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into the show, 874-9390. Now, since you listen to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, I know you're going to dig Chris's website, ChrisArps.com. Scott Fawn, mutual friend, you know Scott Fawn, has Missouri.
Oh, yes.
Has Missouri Times, has a great publication called, he's got the Missouri Times and he's got the TV show This Week in Missouri Politics you can catch on weekends. He drew a little bit of the ire of St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones. She was talking about his spelling, and Scott Fawn loved this, but KSDK, there's a reporter for KSDK, and this guy went in, sunshined, I guess, text messages from her personal phone. What did they find?
Oh, my God. Well, the remarks that she made about Scott Fawn were very light compared to the other remarks that came from her phone. The mayor was on a local radio show talking about the appointment of the new circuit attorney. She made it no fan that she is not a fan of Steve Roberts, who's a state senator here. If you'll remember the Corey Faith Walker deal, she was friends with her. She ended up, they found her dead in a hotel room earlier this year. State Senator Roberts was accused of raping her a couple of years ago when they were colleagues in the House. Found out that he didn't do it. He had proof that it was a consensual relationship. All that being said, she made it known that she did not want him to be the appointed circuit attorney. She made a comment, please don't sunshine my phone. And guess what the news media did? They did a sunshine request on her phone, and she is just dogging out everybody. Her and her father was a group text between about 5 people that worked for her and her father, and she takes everybody to task on that group chat.
As a matter of fact, and also as it relates to, and apparently she didn't want Wesley Bell to become the circuit attorney to replace Kim Gardner, and that's another story. As Scott Fitzpatrick, the auditor of the state, man, they're getting in. They're down at that courthouse. They're at the Carnahan Courthouse in St. Louis, and they're getting into some stuff as it relates to Kim Gardner. I want to make sure we cover that with you. But she
remember, she said she wanted to punch our now Senator Eric Schmidt in the neck. A woman named Jane Duker, who is the police union's attorney. She said, "I hate that D word." In the text, so yeah. And
it's amazing, these progressives, the violence. She wants to punch a sitting U.S. senator in the neck. This is a progressive. Their politics, they think these kinds of things are okay. People that they didn't like, as a matter of fact, said, quote, this is in relation to Steve Roberts. We mobilize to make sure his ass gets dragged. In other words, they want, let's find dirt. Let's put out the dirt. Man, just some really dark stuff. Our guest, Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Chris, a positive story, it sounds like, coming out of St. Louis County as it applies to property tax increases for senior citizens. What's happening out there?
Yeah, there needs to be relief for senior citizens when it comes to property taxes. My mom, who is now deceased, wanted to stay in her own home. Every year, about September, October, she would start panicking, trying to figure out how she was going to come up with the money to pay her property tax. It's a big burden. It should be leveled out, or should be that senior citizens can stay in their homes and not have to leave because of the taxes being so high. You know, here in St. Louis County, we received our assessment notices recently. Ours was absolutely ridiculous. We have gone down and challenged our assessment 2 times. We've won both times. We're going to do that again. We got an appraisal last week to be able to go down there and show them that I'm glad that you have our house valued like this. It's really great, but we don't believe it. This is just a money grab. So anything that can give senior citizens relief and they can stay in their own homes, I am 100% behind it.
All right, Christopher Arps hanging out with us this morning. Senator Lincoln Hough reps Springfield. I think he enjoys some statewide recognition stuff.
Yeah.
He's been pretty instrumental in getting, even though not in his Senate district that he represents, he's been very instrumental in making sure that I-70 got the money to jack that up to 3 lanes from KC all the way to St. Louis. I think he's got some pretty significant name recognition across the state. He's going to be joining us 7:10 this morning. The possibility of an override of a gubernatorial veto does not happen very often. There's some things that they're talking about doing. The likelihood of anything being overridden, Chris?
That's hard to tell. I don't know. I don't know the specific, unfortunately, issue you're talking about that possibly be overridden. I know we talked about this last week, that a lot of state senators were very upset that the government cut a lot of their projects out of the budget. So there may be some repercussions for that. Some people may want to override his veto. I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, it's got to do with some of the budget stuff.
And there were some big announcements over the weekend with from Democrats with Crystal Quaid and then Carla May. What are, as you laugh, is that your take? Is that your take? I mean, what do you think the impact of those are, if any?
Negligible to none. Look, Missouri is a solidly red state. Anybody that's a Democrat that runs statewide, they're basically going to be the sacrificial lamb for the Republican incumbent. If Trudy Bush Valentine, who is a millionaire who has name recognition, if she did very poorly in her race against Senator Schmidt, then Crystal Quaid, who most people have never heard of, is probably not going to do very well either. I laughed because we talked about it yesterday on the radio show. Really enjoyed her come out video. I had no idea that she was a roller derby queen at one time, and she says that in her video.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. We'll get some of Lincoln Hough's thoughts on that coming up 7:10 this morning here on Wake Up Mid. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
You sure, man.
Roller derby.
Yep.
We grew up with early roller derby and all that. I don't know if Stephanie did. What were the rules of roller derby? I mean, how do you just score points and?
John,
how do you just roll around and just run into people? How do you? It's actually a game, right?
That I don't recall, but John, I used to when I was a kid in California. It was on TV every single Friday night, and I loved watching roller derby. But there was no dudes playing roller derby. It was always women, and you go around the circle in the rink, and you had to knock the crap out of other people. And I don't know how you scored
pretty much
points.
it. Yeah,
there were some leagues here in mid-Missouri for a while. I don't know if they're still around or not, but I've seen roller derby. I don't know the rules. Much like pickleball, I would have to just Google it.
Chris, do you remember our favorite roller derby participant? And her name was Earlene Brown. She was a great big lady, and she wore the number 747 on her jersey.
I don't, but I do remember back in the day there was a team called the Thunderbirds. They were like a top team in roller derby, and St. Louis had a team too. I do remember that.
There is even
and Brandon, it was female and males. The females would have a round, and then the males too. They never played together, but they did have males playing rollerball, and then they'd have females playing rollerball. I do remember that.
And it looked fun. It looked like I'd love to get on roller skates and try to knock the crap out of some people. I can get down with that. Coming up a few minutes from now, we're going to continue our visit with Christopher Arps, our state auditor. Scott Fitzpatrick, just on the show here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri recently. He's been spending some time in St. Louis. This has to do with Kim Gardner. I want to get Chris's thoughts on what they are finding so far. She's the former circuit
about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's issues, the attacks on Trump, the politicalization of the Department of Justice, and we all understand that. We get it. But none of that talks about the future.
That's the governor of New Hampshire, a Republican, Chris Sununu, saying these Republicans aren't talking about the issues. I don't know if I completely agree with it. I think they have. He might have a point with the Trump stuff. What do you think about what he said there, Chris?
You know what? My wife was showing me something, and I was trying
next question.
Multitask there. I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm sorry.
Next question. What was your wife showing you? Chris Arps.
My wife was showing me the Facebook account of a mutual friend of ours, and I wanted to see what they look like.
Chris Arps.
She was showing it to me.
ChrisArps.com is joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I want to ask about this and why it matters. So Scott Fitzpatrick, just recently, he's our state auditor, on the show. He's been spending some time in your city of St. Louis. He's been hanging out down there at the Carnahan Courthouse, and this is part of an audit that's happening. And by the way, this began 5 years ago. This issue with this progressive Kim Gardner, who people elected because she's black. She's a female. She'll be great for the job. We saw how that ended in disgrace years later. They're finding some stuff. In one case, Fitzpatrick said the office, according to St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the office turned over a bill showing the purchase of an airplane ticket, the name of the passenger, destination, reason for the trip, all blacked out. They've requested documents like, hey, we want some bank and credit card statements. We want policy guidelines. The office had not been responding. Do you think we're going to find some seriously dark stuff here?
Oh, most definitely. Kim Gardner was completely incompetent. The office had 100% turnover. The citizens of St. Louis had no confidence at all that she was going to prosecute criminals. She had a case before the Supreme Court where she could have almost been disbarred. We were hearing stories from people that worked in the office about all of the dysfunction. So I'm not surprised at all that the auditor is finding discrepancies with her records. I'm just wondering if anything is going to come out of this now that she is out of office, and if she is prosecuted for these things. I can just hear the crowds now saying, she's out of office. You've drummed her out of office. Why are you investigating? Leave her alone. You're just going after her because she's a black female and was the first one to head this office. So kudos for the state auditor, and I hope he finds even more stuff.
A race card, the greatest card in the deck that you can possibly have. And by the way, as we were talking about the mayor, Tashara Jones, and her texts and things like that, I wanted to point this out because we talk about progressives and how this impacts Missouri. The Ethical Society of Police, that was one of the folks that Jones was, and that's a black police officer, or it's primarily made up of black police officers. She's criticizing police officers. The mayor of St. Louis criticizing police officers. We basically, in effect, saw that with the mayor of Columbia, Barbara Buffalo, will go to a city council. We support law enforcement. What she does on Twitter is the exact opposite. But it's the same thing. You've got a progressive mayor of Columbia, in my mind, does not support police, even though she'll say it in a city council meeting. She is lying. And you've got Tashara. Why these Democrats, 20 seconds, Chris, why this distaste for law enforcement?
That's a good question. I think most of them are African Americans that have this distaste, and we know the history of law enforcement and African Americans, and I think it's an emotional issue that appeals to African Americans, and that's why they are on this issue.
Yep. And it's that group think. I mean, it is identical. You go to St. Louis, you go west to Columbia with the mayor in Columbia. And then you go to Kansas City, I suspect the same thing. Chris Arps, check out his website. Really cool stuff right now, chrisarps.com. We love you. We will see you next time. Stay with us. The likelihood of a Governor Parson veto
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, news director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
And I think a lot of people do watch you and are impressed, and they think you've been a great president. You've brought the economy back. You've restored relations with the world.
Now that we're doing a great job in world leadership, probably at the level of FDR or Eisenhower, we're holding the world together. We're building NATO as it was built to be.
This is why you should be watching Wake Up Mid-Missouri on our YouTube and Facebook channels, because Stephanie's reaction to MSNBC and CNN gushing all over Joe Biden. I mean, the one dude, Fareed Zakaria, CNN, you've been a really good president. Chris Matthews, MSNBC, we're talking FDR. This guy saved the planet.
Impressed. They said they were impressed.
And this is why we're screwed, okay? These people, they watch these national news outlets. Do you see Chris Matthews says Joe Biden's like FDR, and the dude on CNN says everybody says you're doing a good job. And the news outlets, they ignore the facts.
Except for the 70% of people who say the country is on the wrong track.
Welcome into the show. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah is there.
Hello.
Mr. Marsh.
Yes, sir.
I am Branden Rathert. Brian Houseworth is here, too, closer to home right now. But that's why, that's the problem, okay? That 28 seconds, 2 pieces of audio, 2 different news outlets. Joe's doing a great job. People watch it, people that don't think, all right, and they watch it and they believe it. You hear on the TV, they said Joe's doing a really good job. And then Joe goes to work down at the shop and he tells his buddy, Mike, yeah, Joe's apparently doing a really good job. It is simply not true. You can look at facts, figures, and numbers, and the idea that Joe Biden wants to control what media, what social media says, what they do. That's the kind of stuff, okay? This happens in Russia. This happens in China. It doesn't happen in the United States of America, but that's the mindset of this progressive state senator, Lincoln Hough, represents Springfield, joining us here. Your take, I know we want to talk about some things closer to home, but the national news outlets, Lincoln, that's what we're saying. That's what they're putting on the TV, and people are believing this.
Well, the sad thing, Branden, and first of all, thanks for having me on this morning. The sad thing about politics anymore, and I think it's not even just the news. I think it's a lot of other media outlets that, folks can just get on and they can more or less say whatever they want, and there's so little fact checking anymore. I guess I'm kind of an old hat in politics in Missouri anymore because of term limits, but I've been at it for 11 years now. And when I started, and Stephanie will remember all this stuff, when people put mailers out during campaigns, there actually had to be a shred of truth to them. You had to say that, someone voted for something and you had to back it up. You actually had to cite what vote it was that you were referencing if you said, someone wanted to eat children for breakfast. But now you can just say anything. And you see it. I mean, it's sad to see it at the national level, but you see it all the way back at home at our school board elections and our city council elections anymore. So, the thing that I always try to remind folks is, I know it's a pain, I know it's hard, and I know nobody has time, but occasionally, if you want to be educated on issues, you actually need to go do a little bit of your own homework and find out, who the people are that you're getting ready to endorse or elect for whatever office we're talking about.
Exactly, and then you doing your own homework, whether it's candidates or news stories. Hey, Fox, USA Today, that stuff is great. Go to the local news source. You see a story about something that happened on a social level in Philadelphia. Okay, you see the story on Fox, go to like a Philadelphia news outlet.
Or about women having to cover their arms on the floor.
Right, which happened. We had all these news outlets completely mislabel what happened in Missouri with the women on the floor. And I love that you say it because people will go on to medias and they'll say whatever they want. I'm glad you're with us this morning on this media outlet, Senator Lincoln. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say. Let's start here. Governor Parson vetoing some stuff. As it relates to the budget, some of y'all not happy.
Sure.
Are you one of those that's unhappy with Governor Parson's vetoes of some items?
Well, I think the thing to remember, Branden, is we had a little over a $50 billion budget this year. There's a lot of good stuff in there for a lot of people. I mean, honestly, every Senate district, every House district around the state has projects. I know we're going to talk a little bit about I-70 and some other infrastructure things here in a minute. But again, I think it's real easy to focus on the negative. I think it's easy to focus on the one thing that you didn't get that you thought you were going to get, or in some cases, the governor didn't totally veto an entire line or a project or a proposal. He vetoed the amount down to a lower level. I know we've got a law enforcement center around the Columbia area that took a little bit of a haircut. I reminded the folks that represent that area that, still getting 75% of that project is a pretty good win for you. It's good for your law enforcement community. It's good for your community at large and the surrounding areas that are going to utilize that facility in the future. So, I call me the perpetual optimist here, but we've got a $300 million new psychiatric hospital that's going to go up in the Kansas City area. We've got, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure projects, both roads, wastewater, industrial kind of expansion sites and communities that don't quite have the financial ability to build out that infrastructure that they need to open up. Oftentimes we're talking about hundreds of acres of development and industrial sites that those communities are getting ready to start work on, and just need that final little $3, $4, $5 million push, that helps get them across the line. And so, as I fielded calls from, my colleagues both in the Senate and in the House, I try to remind folks that there's a lot to be proud of in this. Everyone, I think, took a little bit of a haircut, myself included. I mean, I'm the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and I had stuff in Springfield vetoed, right? So, I mean, everyone's in the same boat, Brandon. But all in all, I think we're in a very good shape.
State Senator Lincoln Hough joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Senator, when you were right in the midst of the appropriation hearings, I know you used a term that got people's attention. You talked about this artificially high state budget being an anomaly. It's a one-time thing, basically. Talk to us where we're headed.
Sure. Yeah, so and what I meant by that is that in the last couple of years, through the COVID pandemic, the zombie apocalypse, whatever you want to call it, the federal government pushed out billions of dollars all over the country, and obviously Missouri was one of those recipients. So we received, through a couple of direct appropriations from the feds, somewhere in the neighborhood of $6, $7, $8 billion, and a lot of, and then that was just the state portion. You got to remember, municipalities, communities, cities and counties, schools got direct appropriations. Colleges and universities they all got direct money also. So when I say this is an anomaly, we're used to a budget that's around $35, $37 billion, things like that. And so this is artificially inflated, long-term, not sustainable. So what you saw myself and the Appropriations Committee in the Senate prioritize were one-time projects, large infrastructure projects that are going to foster economic development around, communities all over the state that we don't have ongoing costs in. Okay. What we prioritized was not building a budget around, increases to, rates of, reimbursement that the state makes into, medical field, like into hospital, things like that. We didn't do a lot of that because those costs are going to come, they're going to continue, and they're going to be an annual renewal unless those folks then want to take a haircut, which I think we all know as soon as you give someone something, it's pretty hard to take it back.
All right.
We built this budget around a lot of one-time funding.
Our guest, State Senator Lincoln Hough, we got about 3 minutes and 2 more questions.
Thank you, Brandon. Senator, money was included in the budget to fund the I-70 expansion through Columbia. How important is that, and what's the time frame for that to begin? I mean, when Dwight Eisenhower was president, they just started building it. There wasn't really any studies. There was no studies. They just started building it. What's the status? When's that going to start?
Right. So the good news is, and this timing is absolutely perfect, guys. MoDOT had their first industry meeting, is what they call it, kind of stakeholder meeting yesterday, and we put some stuff out on some media platforms, kind of touting that. But the budget was signed 10 days ago, now 11 days ago, and MoDOT had their first meeting with stakeholders and the industry folks that are going to be tasked with building this. They're going to do it in a number of sections. The good news here is I-70 is about as shovel-ready as it can be, as opposed to I-44 and 63 and 49, things like that still have environmental work that need to be done, and we're going to simultaneously do that on a few other roads. But you're probably looking at, if you want to be just completely honest here, you're probably looking at a 5 or 6 year build out. But you got to remember, I-70, as you mentioned, was started under the Eisenhower administration. 1956 is when that road started being built, okay? It's 260 miles long. It's the oldest part of that interstate system that runs right through the heart of the country. And, for years we have been patching and, putting an extra bridge or an extra lane or an extra whatever, right here and there. And it's anyone who's driven on it in the past, I would say 12 years, knows that it has needed a massive overhaul for that much time or longer. And so we took a proposal from the governor. He had an initial proposal around $900 million to work on 3 specific sections that were the most congested, most heavily trafficked. And I'll just be honest with you, when MoDOT came in and Patrick McKenna came in, I think they do a great job for the most part. They came in and they said, here's what we want to do. I looked at the director and I said, if we're going to spend $900 million, how about we figure out a way to do the whole road, 3 lanes, both directions, across the whole state, and be done with it? I'm tired of the Band-Aid approach that we've been kind of hamstrung with in this state, because we are, you guys know this, we're a low-tax state, which oftentimes mean we don't have a ton of resources to put into things like this. It's why we haven't had a plan to rebuild I-70 until now. And it's a $2.8 billion project. It's the largest infrastructure project in Missouri's history, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
So certainly a big win for the state, and but it has implications beyond just our state. It has implications regionally. We've got about 1 minute. You were out in D.C. Tell us what you're doing there.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of it's a national conference with kind of a subgroup of transportation and infrastructure folks that are meeting, talking about ways that we can invest in our states, because oftentimes, the feds are good at building things one time and then they walk away. So then it gets left to us. And so there's, several dozen lawmakers out here, some industry folks. We're going to do a little panel roundtable kind of discussion this afternoon before I head home. But just talking about how states are prioritizing these bigger infrastructure projects that have sort of fallen by the wayside from the feds.
All right, Lincoln Hough, State Senator, Springfield. I hate to do this to you. One word answer, though. The likelihood of an override of a gubernatorial veto in the special session, likely, yes or no?
I'm going to say no.
10-4, Lincoln Hough, State Senator, Springfield. Man, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate you going to bat for us, the state of Missouri and D.C. today. We'll have you back on again real soon.
Happy to do it. Have a great day, guys.
10-4. Coming up, we're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah.
It's been a hot minute since we've had a zoo animal-related story, and I found one.
Too long.
It's been
too long.
That's Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:25.
By the way, I was thoroughly proud of the birthday gift that we gave to one of our biggest fans yesterday, Millie Fawn. Turned 14 yesterday, middle schooler, Blair Oaks, and she loves What's Hot with Hannah every morning at 7:25-ish. Matter of fact, I think she enjoys it more when we're late.
She does.
Hopefully she had a great birthday yesterday.
You know, there for a while, it seems like every other day I was doing a story about some weird animal-related thing that had happened. There were lots of animals escaping zoos. There was like a leopard in, I think it was Dallas, that got loose and was roaming the city, which is kind of terrifying. You know, birds fleeing their enclosure, you know, animals being stolen. It was real weird for a hot minute there. And then things got kind of quiet. But now I found another one. So all is well. Everything can be restored in the world. The Toronto Zoo has had to put up signs on the gorilla enclosures inside their zoo because, like, spectators were holding up their cell phones to the glass of the enclosure and showing the gorillas, like, pictures and videos.
Okay.
And I guess it was really messing with the gorillas. Like, they were enamored by it. And a specialist with the zoo said it was not allowing the gorillas to live in their natural environment.
Which is true of all social media.
But it's one of those things, like, if one spectator sees a gorilla being fascinated by a video on a cell phone, another person's going to hold up a video. And they're just really trying to limit the gorilla's screen times.
So I could go, hey, gorillas, look at this picture from John Marsh at the big Jefferson City Chamber of Commerce Fiesta event last year at that winery. And the gorilla would look at the picture of John Marsh and go, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool, and want to see more. They get addicted to it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I would be afraid they'd be showing them, like, pictures of a bigger gorilla or something to, like, make them angry. And then...
My challenge would be what they do when you stare at them too long at the zoo.
Right.
They like to respond in kind and throw things.
The best part of this article, though, was that they do allow the gorillas to watch some TV.
What shows do they watch?
And that's the proper first question.
Is it South Park?
I say TV. I don't know if it's an actual TV show, but they have screens of, like, their natural environments that they can watch. And that apparently doesn't affect them in the same way because they're seeing more of what they normally would see in their enclosure or in the wild. Whereas if you're showing them, you know, TikToks on your phone, that's not something they would be accustomed to seeing, and it could rewire their brain and make them act weird and not want to act like gorillas.
So we want to take you out of your natural environment as a gorilla, put you in something that kind of looks like where you used to live before we yanked you out of the jungle, and we're going to put in a few trees and some concrete stuff to look like rocks. But to bring it all home, we're going to put pictures of the forest on TVs, and they'll play in a constant loop 24 hours a day. And then meanwhile...
Curious George cartoons.
We're going to show you TikTok videos and have you watch reruns of South Park.
I just thought it was funny, Stephanie. I think you laughed the hardest when I said they're limiting the gorillas' screen times.
Like kids.
I have it on lockdown, but then, I'm also thinking, like, are they showing them, like, if you've ever watched those little kid videos, I'm like, someone on drugs made this, like Baby Einstein.
You've got to be tripping on shrooms to put together some of these kids' cartoons.
Teletubbies.
Yeah. My nephews loved the dancing fruit on YouTube.
Right.
Like, Mom, I'm tripping. I know I'm only 5.
Cowbell. Hi, John Marshall lead guitar. Hannah's on the keys and Brian Houseworth on the harmonica. Here we go. Count us in. A 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3.
Good morning. Welcome into the show. What's going on in Fulton? I'm wondering. There's a couple of things about this story. New city administrator happened Friday. Previous city administrator there for a short time. Now we've got a new one, but it's what's not being said that's piqued my curiosity, and I don't know any answers. So, Hannah, we're just going to gossip. We're going to surmise what we think. We're going to ask questions.
You want to know what I noticed that was odd about that?
What did you notice?
So we were emailed the press release at like 2:50 this morning.
Yes, press release early in the morning, something that went down on Friday. I do think it's very, because there's a lot. By the way, you look at Jefferson City, they have a new mayor. Columbia is getting a new police chief. City of Fulton has, so a lot of change in local leadership that's going to be affecting people. Good morning. Welcome into the show. Speaking of local leaders, there's Mr. John Marsh.
Good morning.
Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
That's producer Hannah.
Howdy.
My name is Branden Rathert. Our phone number, if you want to reach out, text us. Area code 573-874-9390. 573-874-9390. Before we get into the city admin story, anybody, I know Steph won't, I know Hannah won't. Actually, I didn't recognize the name either. James Lewis. You recognize the name James Lewis, Marsh?
No.
That's such a, I hate to say generic name, but
it's like going on the radio and saying, hey, if you know the Smith family that lives in mid-Missouri, please call the radio station.
Yeah.
We'd like to have their daughter on the show to sing the national anthem. By the
worked.
Way, it worked. That's right. And by the way, Steph, that actually happened while you were gone. We were trying to find this Mia Smith and couldn't find her dad, couldn't find her mom, even though we'd all met her at the prayer breakfast. So I'm like, hey, do you know the Smith family that lives here in
He was serious. I had to remind him, there's probably several Smith families.
So I looked in a phone book, because John Marsh still has a phone book, still has
still
yellow
print
pages.
those?
They do.
And there are a few Smiths in there. But it worked out. Somebody called me, and Smith was on the show. Yeah, James Lewis, 1982. He was the dude. It was suspected, never charged, never convicted. Remember the Tylenol scare? 7 people died. This dude was walking around drugstores in Chicago and apparently putting cyanide in these bottles of Tylenol. And it freaked us out. Yeah. Because at first it was Chicago. They didn't know if it was a nationwide thing. And it was just insane. So that was 1982. Same year Cardinals beat the Brewers in the World Series. So that dude that had it was the summer of 82, had everybody freaked out. He died yesterday. He was 76. Okay. Fulton.
Sad.
Fulton City Council, according to our news partners, ABC 17, in press release, emailed to the radio station in the middle of the night, actually, has a new city administrator. What I find interesting about this story, and this according to ABC 17, city stated the appointment occurred at a special session Friday. So this happened on Friday. So we're several days removed from this after Renee Tyler was fired from the position the same day. City has not given a reason for Tyler's termination. It was announced, she was announced as the director of administration, so a year ago in 2022. Didn't last long. So here's what I think is interesting. The timing of the press, and I'm not trying to stir up or create anything, but it just leads.
We're just gossiping. It's just the girls. We're spilling tea.
Just asking questions. So apparently 5 members voted in favor. 3 members abstained. I get sometimes somebody will abstain, conflict of interest, whatever. But 3 people abstained. I don't know, but okay, you like the person, but you were morally conflicted because maybe, and again, I'm just wondering, they were doing some really bad stuff, but you like them, so you abstained from the vote? I don't know.
We have been told in Ashland that we actually have to say what our conflict is if we abstain. We're not allowed to abstain and not say anything. So I think that's actually a good rule. You can't just abstain because you just don't feel like voting. And
you have to give a reason.
Yeah, you have to say this is my company or this is my sister or whatever. So, I think more cities should adopt that rule because I think it makes people take a stand on the important issues. Obviously, this one's important, and people always, but I am going to rain on your gossip parade right now. People always like to read stuff in to the city administrator stuff, but I will say, so I sat on a hiring committee for the city administrator in Jefferson City, sat on the one when we hired a city administrator in Ashland the first time around, and And if you look at these folks' resume, and actually I have an MPA at my master's in public administration, which qualifies me to actually be a city administrator, although I have no experience.
But I'm qualified.
I have, so a lot of my friends that I went to school with here, it was the Mizzou Truman School, ended up in this realm. And you look at their resumes and you see just like a couple years here, a couple years here, a couple years here, a couple years here. It is a tough job. And the problem is there's a lot of politics involved. So oftentimes, you're trying to be the operator and then you've got this whole city council. Maybe you've got some people on there who like you, maybe you don't. Then the city council might turn over. And so a lot of times it comes down to personality conflicts, and it's just not a job that people stick around a lot in. And so when we first, when you get resumes and you're with people who are outside of kind of that industry and they see these, a couple, something must be wrong. They're only here for, they're a job jumper. And it's like, no. It's
political.
That's just how that industry is. And, and a lot of folks, and if you're really good and you're in a smaller city, there's a lot of opportunity then for you to bump up to a bigger city. And so, obviously it's a personnel matter, so they're not going to be saying much of anything right now. But it's not, a lot of times people want to read something in, and a lot of times it's just kind of the nature of the beast in that realm.
Well, that's not fun.
I know. Maybe
it is one of those deals, too, where, like Stephanie said, there's a lot of personality conflicts that go into city administration, Steph. We saw it in Jefferson City.
I was going to say, I don't want to name names, but I bet Jeff City ran through, 5 administrators in 10 years or 12 years? I mean, it was...
Well, we had Colonel Rasmussen, then we had Nathan Nicholas moved up for a while, and then there were some challenges there, and Steve Kroll, who just left in Jefferson City, had been here, several years?
A longer term than I think is typical.
So this Doyle, who is going to be replacing Renee Taylor, she's in the job now. Courtney Doyle, apparently a lifelong resident of the Fulton area. Off the text, 874-9390, interesting take two. It's interesting to note the city council took the hiring process all on their own, not utilizing a company which specializes in putting skilled municipal leaders in place. A hire of that stature, to me, seems to merit that type of diligent work. I just find it interesting.
And I don't know if the city of Columbia, because they're searching, I don't know if they hired a firm. But then again, if they hired a firm, would we be criticizing them for spending money on something that they could do themselves? When we did it in Ashland, there were the mayor and a couple of city council folks. And then at the time, I was a citizen member. They had some citizen folks on the committee. When we did it in Jefferson City, they had citizens, and they had and they made it public who was on the committee. They had citizens. They also had city staff and some of the elected officials.
In Columbia, they have a consulting firm that's leading the search for Columbia's new police chief. Columbia does have an interim police chief in place. Jeff Jones is going to be stepping down next month, man. I'm happy for the guy personally. And I feel like he got a little mad at me last time he was on the show because I keep saying I don't think he got the support that he said. And he said, no, I got support. He wouldn't say the name Pat Fowler, but Houseworth, I just about got him on that. But here's what I get upset.
And he said, you're trying to read in too much to this. And I said I was only going to take this job. He's like, you want to find out something really, you want a better story here. Yeah. But I told them when I started that I was only going to take this for a couple of years. If you missed that interview, you should look that up on YouTube. It really was good. And it is a huge loss for Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, that kind of breaks my heart. And I wonder, another story when it comes to law enforcement and arrests and things like that. 2 guys, both, and I'm serious when I say this, I almost feel bad.
No, you don't.
Feel bad?
Well, because it can be kind of a touchy, delicate subject. But again, I'm just asking questions, John. Just asking questions.
Oh, boy.
That's all. One, a dude arrested after apparently exposing himself outside of the Shakespeare's Pizza Joint in Columbia, which is legendary because all the kids back in the day when they were going to Mizzou, you had Shakespeare's downtown, and that was the thing. So now they have 3 locations, but apparently a dude exposed himself outside of a Shakespeare's, and then another man. MU police arrested a Columbia man yesterday morning after a report of an indecent exposure in the downtown area on Sunday night. 26-year-old dude apparently driving. He drove on South 9th Street.
How do you... What?
That's where I'm going. And then exposed himself while inside of his car.
You ever notice it's almost always dudes that get in trouble for indecent exposure?
Women don't go around, unless you're in New Orleans at Mardi Gras, women do not go around exposing body parts, John.
Good point. Good point.
It's completely a dude thing. This is what guys do. Men are pigs. I'm telling you, men are pigs. It's very simple. I remember I used to read Cosmopolitan magazine. My mom made me read Cosmo when I was a kid. Seriously.
That explains a lot.
It does, actually.
Volumes.
And they would have these articles like, here's the way to a man's heart, or the 10 tips to get to a man's heart, or the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And even as a kid, I'd be like, that's wrong. That's not the way to a man's heart. It's not food. It's not all these other things.
Then what is it?
It's real simple.
He's trying to be anatomically correct like Ken and Barbie.
The way to a man's heart, it's real simple. I don't need a 27-page article with 10 different things of how to get a man to like you. Where was I? Oh, yeah, these dudes, indecent exposure.
No, share your secret. What's the...
So here's the thing.
Beads at Mardi Gras.
I'm wondering, these dudes both, and exposing yourself, it's not funny. But I'm wondering, like, did they... John, you'll remember, back in the day, you used to moon people.
Oh, God.
You would try it, and you moon people, and it was kind of a fun, it was kind of a way of giving somebody the middle finger. But
You think this guy was driving his car?
No. Here's what I think. Somebody was driving.
Somebody else was driving.
And he's in the passenger seat, and they're just cruising down through downtown Columbia, and he's dropping trowel, and they're laughing and having a good time. But apparently somebody said indecent exposure. And I don't know.
Do you think that's for mooning? I think that is not what they... And if we are wasting our law enforcement resources on arresting people for mooning people...
Yeah, women also expose themselves. That's right, women on the White House lawn. It wasn't a woman, it was a dude, actually.
Well, the question you have to ask, downtown Columbia, were either of these incidents involving homeless people with mental challenges?
That's a different take. Not quite as fun as the take I had, but it's a take, John, and I appreciate it.
And yeah, I mean, in downtown, like, you got kids. I don't think it was for mooning. You can ask Brian to call and ask the specifics if you want.
Hey, Brian.
He will tell you the police report was heavily redacted.
Hey, Let me ask you this. Can Brian hear us right now? He's in the green room. We ought to bring him in, like at 8:10. Because when he goes to court and goes through... That's why John Marsh and Brian Houseworth are so good at what they do. Brian Houseworth gets detailed. Like, we should ask him to get, like, really detailed on these reports, see if he can find out if it was...
See, all of our desks are near each other, so I can hear every phone call that he makes, and I'm just picturing him.
Yeah, this is Brian Houseworth. Zimmer. Two gentlemen in decent did one drop trowel and moon somebody while cruising down Broadway? Coming up 5 minutes from now, who's this singing?
Die a life of blonde fragility.
So it's not a singer. It's an actor, a very well-known actor, probably in one of the greatest chick flicks of all time. In his latest movie, he's singing. We're going to find out who that is.
Earnings snapping a 3-day losing streak.
Dow up 210 points yesterday. We'll look at your futures coming up at 8:25 during the Morning Bell Business News with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
And Amazon Prime Day isn't the only thing you should be watching, and it's actually not the best thing. It's the fact that they've inspired others to also offer some crazy deals this summer.
I love that. That's coming up at 8:25. I want to mention about this fired city administrator in Fulton. Somebody says that they apparently had given the commencement speech at Westminster's graduation speech and said she was very good. Renee Taylor. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah. Who's this dude singing?
A life of blonde fragility. I'm just kidding.
Not a singer. I think the only thing that makes it interesting is the context. That is the dude who was probably... was this movie the greatest chick flick of all time? Top three, maybe? Up there with Bridges of Madison County, maybe?
What?
That's Ryan Gosling singing, who is in the movie The Notebook, which I actually saw. That's Ryan Gosling. The dude from The Notebook is now singing in this Barbie movie.
So the guy who was in the chick flick is now in the Barbie guy. Yeah,
He's
I'm
Ken.
not surprised.
Do you
He is not attractive whatsoever. I'm sorry. Ugh.
John, would you want to be the actor who played Ken? Of all
Price is right for sure.
Man. By the way, back to our mooning story.
You would, because you'd play opposite Margot Robbie, and she's smoking hot. Yes.
And I've got the anatomical part down pat. Steve says, so women don't get arrested for indecent exposure because if a woman is we're talking two stories, a couple of guys in Columbia both busted for indecent exposure, and we're just wondering, did they moon somebody? But the cops.
I'm not wondering that.
You're not.
Yeah, don't say we.
I'm wondering. But yeah, men are pigs. It's something John Marsh is right. Something men do. Women, it's not something women do. And one of our listeners says they probably do it. But guys don't report it. Listen, if a dude's out in public and a woman flashes herself, whatever, dude's not going to go, I better call the police. Indecent exposure.
I'm going to call all my friends.
I'm gonna bet a week's worth of Hannah's salary that it's just simply
put up a video.
Yeah, it's just simply not happening. Coming up on the show a little bit after 8 o'clock, different take on what's happening in Washington, D.C. as it relates to Joe Biden. Because it's like behind the scenes stuff. And Stephanie and I, every time Joe Biden travels overseas, and you could watch this on our YouTube channel, it's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You can also watch on Facebook. Go to our Facebook page.
The Wake Up Facebook page.
And you would see every time Joe goes overseas, Stephanie and I are sitting here and we've got our fingers crossed because when Joe's going overseas, we get nervous. And he did not disappoint yesterday. Gosh, please. Just one time, Joe. Don't embarrass us, man. You know how your kids embarrass you? You didn't do anything. Your kids did it.
Yeah.
It's like Joe. He's the kid that embarrasses the parents. What did he do? That's coming up at 8:10. Don't miss it.
What is happening?
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, news director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
And I think a lot of people do watch you and are impressed, and they think you've been a great president. You've brought the economy back. You've restored relations with the world.
Now that we're doing a great job in world leadership, probably at the level of FDR or Eisenhower, we're holding the world together. We're building NATO as it was built to be.
Joe's the best ever. That's CNN, MSNBC, and the word that caught Stephanie's attention.
Impressed.
Great was used twice.
Yes.
You're doing, there's Fareed Zakaria to his face. And people think you're doing a great job, and he's just like, like he's approaching a celebrity asking for his autograph. He's not a celebrity. He's the president of the United States of America, and we're in a bad way. But these guys, and here's what really scares me. So I'm not just knocking these guys, CNN and MSNBC. That's what we're talking about. They say that the president is doing a great job. And what's the right track, wrong direction numbers in America right now?
One of the more recent ones had us over 70% for the country, people thinking the country's headed in the wrong direction.
So that's a lie. But people, they watch the CNN, they watch the MSNBC, and then they go to work and they share. Oh, did you see the dude says that Joe Biden's like FDR. He's a great president. And then they go to work and they share it, and they are lying to you. And that's why where we are now, because of the national news outlets and because of progressives and people that don't get educated about who they're voting for.
Are you ever like sitting in a really quiet room and someone's talking and like everyone seems to be like nodding their head and you just want to like stand up and be like, are you kidding me? And like, I've been in that situation so many times, be like, is this for real? Am I being punked? Like, what is happening in this room? And you want to like cause a big scene. I imagine you sitting in like a Columbia City Council meeting having that feeling. but I
for
get
3 hours.
I get that feeling listening to this audio. Like, is anyone just like, I just wants to call BS and be like, hello, what's going on?
One of the last city council meetings that Branden actually went to, he was in the background of ABC 17's camera.
Oh yeah, looking like Bernie.
Yeah, looking like miserable the whole time with his phone pressed against his temple. Like, what am I doing here?
I forgot about that, and I can't.
You had to have a mask on, I think was one of the reasons you were cranky.
Good thing you weren't wearing a polo, a station polo. We didn't have to claim you.
It was some big meeting. Something was going on.
It was about the mural.
Oh, that's right.
That's why he was crabby.
I thought it was about something important.
Well, that was to Gary Oxenhandler. That was the biggest issue at the time, and the mural. But yeah, you were kind of you looked disgusted.
What is it that our friend Fred Perry calls those guys?
The Righteous Brothers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oxenhandler and the other dude.
Rusty Antel.
Because they sit at coffee shops and think about things to bitch about and whine about, and then they take it. We need to get this down. And blah. And so it was the mural thing, and then the ABC 17, our news partner, showing, and I'm sitting off there in a corner like holding my cell phone in my head like it's a gun, like, dear God, please put me out of my misery. I didn't know I was on TV the whole time, and I'm probably a few eye rolls and stuff, because people are always impressed when you roll your eyes at them. They like that. That's a real impressive thing to do. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's John Marsh.
Good morning.
I am eye rolling. My name is Branden Rathert. There's Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you. I do remember the story, and the young reporter who was doing it at the time was Jasmine Ramirez, who is now in San Diego.
How about that?
Yeah, after that story aired.
She does a good job, though. But boy, that was a big deal at the time. It really was.
Should we quiz Brian on the situation with the indecent exposures downtown?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, downtown.
That's right. Thank you, Marsh. Hold up, Brian. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
We got to do the mailbag because
poor Brian has no idea what he's getting ready to walk into.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to drop this on him.
I saw a story on Channel 17. I've not seen any court documents. We'd have to attribute that to 17. It was concerning. I think there's something else. That name, I don't know if people recognize that name, and I don't know if it's related. There was a gentleman with that same name that went down for murder here in Columbia about 20-something years ago. I don't know if this guy's related to him or not.
I think this guy's name was Seymour Butts, wasn't it?
No, this is somebody else.
So is it Seymour Butts? Does that ring a bell?
That does not. No.
Okay.
That's Seymour Heine.
Seymour Heine, the last name Heine?
No.
Does that ring a bell?
No.
Ninth grade at this point.
How about Closeoff? Oliver?
No.
Oliver Closeoff? Does that? Sorry.
That does not. There was the incident also apparently involved some destruction of a truck, and this suspect is also accused of spitting on Columbia police and on civilians. So this is and his name came up in court. This particular person, about 3-4 months ago, I was in Judge Crane's courtroom for something else, and even he was trying to figure out if this guy was related to the person that, was in the news for a big story many years ago. It's not him. This guy's too young. But yeah, I've not seen the court documents in the case.
Couple of dudes. Oh, that's Hannah, producer Hannah there.
Hello.
By the way, she's got a website for her wedding. Mm-hmm. It's really cool, actually. I thought this is awfully self-serving, but it's how kids do it now, and it's a big help.
Yeah, it's really handy. I have all the information in one place.
Because, I wanted to know who's in the wedding party and what do they look like. I can get on Hannah's wedding website and go, oh, that's who's in the wedding party. That's what they look like. It's pretty cool.
I have been married for 15 years, and I had a wedding website. Where have you been?
Not married. Two dudes in Columbia busted for indecent exposure. But what we got to wondering, Brian, is if perhaps maybe they were just mooning people. Because it used to be back in the 70s and 80s, you'd moon people. It was like giving somebody the finger.
You probably shouldn't say just mooning somebody.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't.
Did you see in any of those police reports you read every day to say specifically those dudes indecent what?
Well, it'll give details. I've not seen the court. I've not seen the specifics on the Shakespeare's incident. I think that you're referring to, but yes, there will be in a normal case where someone is charged. They will have specifics. Now, I can't speak about this particular case. We've had multiple incidents that I can remember at the library.
Yeah, that's a little different.
But have you ever seen anyone be arrested for mooning somebody?
Not mooning. We're talking about. We're talking about. This appears to be a little more serious, I think.
So
I never thought that I would see the day that our beloved news director Brian Houseworth.
Good word.
Would seriously say
big
the
round
word
of applause, everybody, for Brian Houseworth.
We appreciate it. But no, I think this case is more serious, and we'll see.
Okay.
But I definitely recognize at least one of the suspects' names from, I believe, a relative.
He's a serial mooner.
Well,
he's mooned more than once.
Yeah.
He's a repeat mooner, a repeat offender. 874-9390. Back to Biden. So, yes, here's the headline. Here's what they say about Biden. Stephanie and I, what do we do every time Joe travels overseas?
We hold our breath.
Hold our breath.
Just pray
Fingers
for the country.
crossed. Yeah. And Joe never fails to disappoint, does he, Steph?
He apparently got lost a little bit yesterday.
He got lost. So here's what's happening. He's talking to one of those Buckingham Palace guards, with the big hats and the uniform. From what I understand, they don't talk. They're silent.
Yeah, you're not supposed to mess with him.
Yeah. Coldstream guards.
Yeah, like that. And Joe is apparently trying to talk to one, and King Charles is like, Joe, come on, man. Come on. And I can admit, Joe's probably just like a little kid talking to this guard, is that your real hair? These are all things I can envision Joe saying. And I want to share a headline and why this is so interesting. Here's a headline. Biden lampooned for being led away by King Charles III. He looks like Mr. Magoo. Old cartoon, Mr. Magoo. He was a bumbling, stumbling idiot. He made it through life, but you didn't know how. And I checked out the theme song, the opening theme song for What's New, Mr. Magoo, and some of the lyrics in it, it's kind of like, yeah, this is Joe Biden.
What's new?
What's new? Good question.
That's me. You got the right fellow.
What new and wild adventure have you bumped into?
Wouldn't you like to know?
You are a man of stature. In your stature, 5'3". Be a man of vision. If only you could see.
You would be a man of vision if only you could see. Like that is Mr. Magoo. That's the theme song. 874-9390. Steve is in Columbia. He wants to talk about mooning.
Hey, well, so this guy that is doing this, and you said he was spitting on people?
Brian Hausworth, if Brian and I are talking about the same story.
Okay, so, yes. So my question is, has anyone busted him in the mouth? I mean, I would if he spit on me.
Yeah, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
Steve, thank you for the phone call. We appreciate you.
I think that's true for most men. I think most men would prefer to be like punched in the face than be spat on. I think it's like the ultimate insult.
Oh, you know what's an ultimate insult to a dude? John, you know the answer to this one? Call a dude the B word. Call a dude the B word. That will flip him out. Sam is in Columbia. Sam, welcome into the show. What's up, bud?
I want to tell you a quick story. You mentioned Slow Joe talking to someone who couldn't respond or shouldn't respond many years ago. A story related to me by my wife about her grandmother when she was a young girl. Remember the old days when Kentucky Fried Chicken would have cutouts of the Colonel in various locations around their restaurants? Well, she had a grandmother, an elderly grandmother who didn't see well. And while they were ordering their food, she carried on an entire conversation with the life-size cutout of the Colonel.
You can totally see Joe Biden doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
God. Sam, I'm glad. We are so grateful you took time out of your day today to call in at 874-9390 and be a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You've certainly made me laugh. We appreciate you, man. Welcome into the family.
My grandma one year when we were Black Friday shopping when I was pretty young, we were in Bass Pro Shops. And it was pretty busy. She waited in line behind a mannequin for a few minutes. And at one point, she tried to ask the guy if he was in line. He, had his hood up. And when he didn't answer, she got really mad at him. And so she starts tapping his shoulder going, "Sir, sir."
Joe Biden. Coming up, we're going to be doing the Morning Bell business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
We're officially in Prime Day deal season, but other people are joining in. So text us. What have you purchased yet? Have you found any good deals? Other stores are in on it. Tell us what you're
Good morning. 8:25, time for the Morning Bell business news with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up pretty significantly this morning, almost 0.25% for NASDAQ, right at a quarter for S&P, and 0.35% for Dow. As the market prepares to open this morning, big day today. It is officially Prime Day. I've already heard from producer Hannah. She's planning on placing a big ol' order.
Oh, yeah.
Is all of your stuff on sale? Like, is everything on sale?
No, very little of it's actually on sale.
I thought so. And that's been kind of the running joke the last couple of years is Amazon has their big Prime Day. And now it's not Prime Day, it's 2 days. And they even released, I think, some of the deals early. In the past, a lot of it was just like Amazon stuff. So they try to get you to buy the Alexa or the Echo or the Show or the whatever, their own products for home. And finally, I don't know how long, it's probably been 5 or 6 years they've been doing this. Finally, other folks are joining in. And that's what I'm really excited about this year. I think they've tried in the past, but this is the first time that I've really seen people getting after it. So Walmart Plus, which is the paid for Walmart subscription. Check your credit cards because certain credit cards give you an auto subscription to Walmart Plus. They are doing a whole like Walmart week. They all have different names. Yeah, Walmart week. It started actually yesterday, and they are having some great deals. A lot of it is, I would say, like tech and gifts. Same for Amazon. So Amazon's gone beyond just their regular, their own products, but there are a lot of computers and a lot of like AirPods and speakers and that kind of thing. So it's a good time to stock up for Christmas or your wedding. If that's your jam.
I was going to say, I have 20 items in my cart.
Oh my gosh.
And 4 of them are on sale. One of them, actually, the price increased since yesterday when I put it in the cart. So that's awesome.
Wow, that's crazy. I know one of the, my kids are getting to that age where they might start needing like more electronics for school. And I saw like Walmart Plus is doing a deal. They got like a $450 laptop for like $199. So which is like cheaper than most phones now. Is that weird that like iPhones are more expensive than laptop computers?
I think it's weird considering you could get a phone for a penny.
Yeah, so beyond Walmart Plus week, which is an entire week, Target is actually getting in on the action, and it is Circle Week as well. And so no matter what, and so Target is the one that you don't have to pay for, like everybody, members of the public get it. I think for Walmart Plus, you had to be a member to get the early deals, but they unlock later this week if you want the deals that are open to the public. And then Amazon, obviously, for Prime, you need to be a Prime member, or I guess, I don't think they've cracked down on sharing yet. So maybe you just need to know somebody who has Prime. At the same time, a lot of folks are saying, hey, it's this time of year where a lot of scammers come out of the woodwork. And USA Today had a story that Amazon is the most impersonated website business in the entire world. And so be very careful, especially right around now where they're like, deals, you got to buy it now, purchase, and I even see the lightning deal and the clock is ticking down. So it's when you have that sense of urgency, when you know something special is going on, that you might be more tempted to just click like some sort of buy now link. They said be careful when buying gift cards. Be careful, if for whatever reason Amazon sends you an email asking for your information, all of that. Make sure you're on Amazon.com, like the actual website. So just it's a good reminder during these times to be extra diligent when you're making those purchases. Are you buying crock pots?
No, I'm on Hannah's wedding website.
Oh, Hannah needs a crock pot.
I've bought nothing ever online that's had to be delivered to my house. I was going to ask, does Amazon Prime Day, will they
You
say,
are a dinosaur.
do they sell?
John Marsh, have you ordered something to be delivered to your house?
Sure. I mean, Amazon Prime Day, I think I scored some pretty cool headphones a while back.
If I could score can I score some plane tickets on Amazon Prime Day?
Maybe.
That'd be about it. We've got some really, really good email. I think we're going to open up the mailbag as it relates to the definition of mooning compared to indecent exposure. Mailbag's next.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows how everybody is living right now, so I think the people are fair enough.
Hi.
Hey, Marsh.
Yo.
Hey, producer Hannah.
Hey.
My name is Branden Rathert, 874-9390. Brian Houseworth running around. I'm glad, actually, he's not in here. We got some text about Brian. We had text of love and encouragement, and we love our Brian Houseworth. We love everybody here on the show. We're going to be doing some of that. We're going to open up the Wake Up Mid-Missouri mailbag because we're getting some really good stuff on a wide variety of topics this morning, including folks that have been watching on the YouTube channel. And what they are seeing. They are commenting on that. We have somebody who's giving more specific definitions about mooning, what legally might be the interpretation of mooning as opposed to indecent exposure. So we have some of that good stuff that we're going to be getting into here in just a minute. Have you been on the new threads, the new social media threads yet?
I sure have.
How would you explain it to somebody?
Oh, I don't know that I know how to explain it.
Really?
It's owned
Twitter.
by It's Twitter, but it's owned
Twitter
by
ripoff.
Zuckerberg. And so at some point you could, it just said, like, do you want to start a Threads? And it uses and you don't even have to, like, type a bunch of info in. If you already have Instagram, it'll pull your name, your photo, your bio, everything over. And then you can post on it. I think most people are wanting to post words as opposed to pictures. So, like, that would be the difference between Instagram and Meta. So it'd be used more like Twitter. The one difference that they've, the head of Instagram, gosh, I forget his name now. He's on, I think, Twitter and Threads. He had said that whereas on Twitter, they kind of, you talk about algorithms and they kind of upvote or promote like hard news and politics. And that's why, everyone says Twitter is just a terrible place to be because people are fighting about it a lot. That Threads will not do that. They're not going to push down the news or politics, but they're not going to promote that either. And so you should see. So that's my big question is, if I need to find a cute outfit to wear or like the best makeup product or whatever, I will go to Instagram. If I want to see like a funny comedy sketch, I can go to TikTok. Or food, sometimes Instagram, TikTok has some food. If I want to see like what all my family members are doing this weekend, Facebook, right? If I want to see, people getting all triggered about the latest news story, Twitter.
Okay.
So like where is...
And that's a great, how you just explained all those, that is perfect. As a 52-year-old dude who has positively no interest in social media, I like to live my life in the real world. I understand what you're saying. I get that. That is a perfect explanation.
So I guess there's a ton of signups for Threads because everyone on Instagram got some message that was like, go get on Threads. And I also saw there was some sort of weird thing that you can now only delete your Threads account if you also delete your Instagram account, which
yes,
no one is going to do. It was like a trick. So you signed up, but you can't unsign up.
Have you been on it, Hannah?
I haven't, but I've seen lots of screenshots and it, to me, it looks just like Twitter.
I hope whenever people are talking about the different social medias that you will continue to, because we're big here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We get Aaron Hedlund, the economist, or we get whoever explain it to us like we are 2 years old, and your definition of the different social media platforms, you nailed it.
And some are and sometimes they classify them by age, right? So Facebook tends to be a little bit older, like because I got it when I was in college, and like I don't use Snapchat, but I know like Hannah's people only use Snapchat.
Yes.
So I guess that's what I don't know about Threads yet is like what lane are they going to be in? Is it going to be younger people? Is it going to be older people? Is it going to be like, is Twitter all the people on Twitter going to migrate over? Because right now my Twitter, it's gone from like politics to just like people promoting AI about everything. Here are 10 ideas for how I use AI in my business. It's just overrun by business bros and it's like completely unhelpful. And I think most of the tweets are now generated by AI, so they just it's awful. So is Twitter going to go away and Threads going to come up? But then again, if Threads is just full of cute outfit inspo, the people on Twitter aren't going there.
I'm going to put on my foil hat.
Okay.
Well, Branden, I was going to push back on your statement that you don't have any interest in social media because you have been obsessing over a friend request that you got sent.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah. That is interesting. Somebody reached out to me.
This is like the fourth time I've heard this story.
On Facebook yesterday.
Facebook is Facebooking these days, apparently.
from a young woman that I dated when I was in the 2nd grade.
I thought it was the 3rd.
Yeah,
Maybe third
you
grade.
get your
That's right.
details right.
Did a lot of dating in the 3rd grade, did you?
Well, here's the thing. See, like when we hooked up, I was already involved in a relationship at the
Now,
time.
wait a second.
And by hooked up, he means pass a
Yes.
note.
Yeah, passing. I don't mean hooked up.
Sitting
like,
together at lunch.
Right. And I was already involved in a relationship, and I remembered her name even before I remember this girl because we passed a note in class. I mean, it was straight up George Strait, check yes or no. George Strait got the idea for that song from this guy, I'm pretty sure. 3rd grader at Perryville Elementary School back in 1980, whatever it was. She reached out to me on Facebook, and it is...
And that was the original, like how older people used Facebook originally, right? Well,
Was
even
to find
younger people. Find old flames, people from your past or whatever. And to this day, I think older people still think Facebook is kind of like their own dating app.
There is Facebook dating now. It's
Oh,
built
really?
into the Facebook app.
There you go.
So we get to talk, and I'm like, yes, I remember the note. She remembers the teacher's name and everything. And then apparently I moved away and we wrote letters. And she still has copies, apparently, of these letters.
No way.
Yes.
This is so weird.
Is what, Marsh?
Stalker.
I don't think that at all. Yet.
So if I'm going through my stuff at home and I see this old note that says like, love Branden, and then I look you up on Facebook and say, I have these old notes.
That was 40-something years ago.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I have anything from 3rd grade.
Here's the way I'm looking at it. Man, even in 3rd grade, I left a big impression on the ladies, didn't I?
Yeah, but impressions can be good and bad. I don't know if I'd flex yet.
Yeah, from impressions to obsessions is kind of a short leap sometimes.
Well, no, so I start checking her out, and she's
You're checking her out?
Well, not checking her out, trying to see what she's doing. I'm not checking her out. I'm not
Potential
doing that.
roster ad.
No, not. Yeah, my fantasy baseball league. Hey, I'm going to add this girl that I dated in the 3rd grade. But like real estate and everything, and does really well, and she's married and all that good stuff. I just thought it was interesting. Looking to get the letters. Where were we? So Threads. You're the Threads in your mind, Hannah. What you've seen?
Meh. I haven't heard any big buzz about it from folks who have actually used it, so that's not a great sign.
And so I put on my foil hat. Here's why it's doing. And I think it was like it took 2 days for it to get 100 million subscribers, something outlandish like that, fastest ever. But here's what I think: who owns Twitter? Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk might be considered to be, I don't know, conservative. All of the news outlets, they hate the guy because he believes in freedom of speech, and progressives do not believe in freedom of speech. Joe Biden wants to regulate what you say on social media. So all of these NBC, CBS, and CNN, they're all really hyping this. And so people are getting onto it because they want Threads to do well, because who's it owned by?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg. They like Mark Zuckerberg because he's a progressive.
Well, I think but I do think it's different. And I think in this way. And so whatever night that was, I stayed up late, and all of a sudden I realized it was live, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to sign up. I'm very excited. And I like social media, but it took me back to the moment, and I remember this very vividly. I was in college. It was my senior year, and we had just heard about, at that time it was called the Facebook.
That's still what Branden calls it.
And we could not get on it because I was going to Truman State, and it was only first open to Ivy League schools, if you recall. But one of my my sorority sisters in this house, had a friend at like Northwestern or Chicago or something, and we looked her up, and she got his like name and password, so we hacked into Facebook with his account. And at the time, it really was like a phone book and just a photo. But I remember being like, oh, this is something, and so. Like, when I signed up for Threads, I'm like, this is something. And people have said, that amount of people on a system so quickly with no glitches, like Twitter Spaces, and all of that, it's crazy. And so I haven't had that feeling of, like, this could be something about a new platform, and I missed the TikTok boat. But I think this is different, and I hope we save this audio, because I think a year from now, Threads is going to be a thing.
Like Getter and Parler.
No, I think this is different. It's going to be different.
The walls are closing in. Ashley, via text 874-9390, she says, I have kept every note from friends and such from elementary school. I don't think it's weird at all. I did keep a lot of my high school letters and stuff. And then I left them at my mom's house, became an adult, went on and lived life. And then eventually, like 25 years later, my mom's like, hey, what do you want to do with all this stuff? I'm like, just keep it, Mom. She said, what are you going to do with it? I said, I don't know. She started sending me boxes every week. I got a huge box from UPS of just crap from high school that then I would go and throw out in the dumpster.
Oh, see, and Ashley, I don't mean to say it's super weird, but the thing I don't throw away is cards. I have like every card. I can't throw them away. I have boxes of them.
Yeah, not Brandon. Brandon could not care less if he tried.
Yeah, he generally doesn't even open them first.
I will open up a card, and Hannah can attest this. I will open up a card and go, oh, Stephanie, that is very thoughtful. Thank you. And then throw it in the trash because I've read it.
And this is why I make my kids make all of the cards now, because those things are like $6 and you just throw them away. I keep them all. And I hope maybe one day, like, I think it's neat to have like the handwriting of your family and friends. And I don't know.
True story. Last Christmas, I watched one of our coworkers give Brandon a Christmas card. He did the, oh, wow, thanks. She walked away. He waited for her to get around the corner. He walks into the break room and throws it in the trash can.
So the point of the story is...
You didn't even recycle?
I was at least polite enough to wait until she had left the room, John.
Remind me to
get out of
take you
shot,
off.
Right?
Right. I'm going to take you off my Christmas card list.
We were going to do the mailbag. Some great texts this morning. Apparently there's... trying to differentiate what's mooning and what is indecent exposure. Also, Kelly, and here's why Kelly is a big fan of watching the show on our YouTube channel. The bathroom breaks, watching you guys on YouTube. And you were mentioning Stephanie doing her makeup. She says, and I noticed during the breaks you guys are up and down and up and down. I can only assume you're thinking, oh, my God, 2 minutes, got to run to the bathroom.
Yes.
Yep,
or get coffee.
More coffee, yeah.
Yeah, except Brandon likes to wait until we're several minutes into a commercial break to try to do anything, and then he has no time.
Coming up a few minutes from now, the folks from Lakota Coffee Company recently voted one of the best of Columbia. We're going to visit with those folks. Into the Gary Nolan Show. Want to say hello real quick to Andrew DuCharme, General Manager, part owner of Lakota Coffee Company, recently voted Best of Columbia for Best of Inside Columbia Magazine's Best of 2023. Andrew, congratulations. Why is it you think that you guys were voted Best Coffee in Columbia? Hello?
Yes.
Why do you think you guys were voted Best Coffee in Columbia?
Well, as a micro roastery, we pride ourselves in that we roast, 5-6 days a week. I think we have a great following throughout Columbia. Columbia is a great college town, and I think Columbia really prides itself in kind of following local businesses, and I think that's one of the biggest key factors. In addition to that, our staff is just truly amazing. Couldn't do it without them.
How you keeping? I know everybody's facing challenges when it comes to staffing, but you guys apparently having really good luck. How are you guys doing that?
We have some internal programs that we kind of follow. We do stuff when you get, we offer like health, partial health care if you're full time, for example. Right. There's some things that we offer, whether it's partial health care or raises every quarter for supervisors and lead supervisors, et cetera. There are certain internal programs that we have implemented to try and make sure that we keep going and keep our staff, because without the staff, we wouldn't have a business.
All right. Andrew DuCharme is our guest. Part owner, Lakota Coffee Company, recently voted Best of Inside Columbia Magazine, Best Coffee. And, here on the show, we're all big fans. We love small local businesses. And so I wanted to ask you, what kind of tip somebody saying, you know what, I want to start a small local business, what would you offer now that you've been doing this for some years?
Sure. Definitely, listen to the market. If the customers are wanting a product that you don't have, definitely explore that. We have grown our menu to match what the customer is needing. For example, 5 years ago, we didn't have matcha. And it's a very popular tea drink now. And now we can incorporate that into a matcha lemonade or an iced matcha or a hot matcha. But, 5 years ago, we didn't have matcha. And, that's a great example of something that we brought in. We might have been a little hesitant to bring it in, but it's been something that has gone over very well. And I think listening to your customer base is one of the best things.
And Andrew, I think that's interesting, because maybe not in the business sense, but one of the things that I have learned, and I wish other people would learn it too, is I have to consider the possibility sometimes, other people are right too, and to listen and go, okay, because I think sometimes pride can get in the way. I'm not doing it that way. I know what I'm doing. I think a really good lesson. Andrew, anything else you would like to say before we let you go?
Just thank you, Columbia. We really appreciate you for 30 years, and we're looking forward to another 30.
Andrew DuCharme, Lakota Coffee Company, man. Congratulations on being named Best Coffee Inside Columbia Magazine. You are in for a real treat. My dad's getting excited. He's probably right now he's getting onto his computer or getting on his phone and getting ready to get the app for the radio station so he can listen to the Gary Nolan Show, or maybe getting online. You go to 939theeagle.com, KWOS.com, click listen live.